You know, I usually stay out of these conversations, but with Caitlin Clark, I can't stay silent anymore.
Michael Jordan just did something he almost never does. He talked about women's basketball, not in a press release, not in a carefully scripted interview. He just spoke, and the two names he mentioned were Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. The impact was instantaneous. Jordan rarely discusses the women's game publicly, and when he does, his words are measured, restrained, and reserved for moments that actually matter. So when he recently made an honest comment about Clark and Cunningham without a stage, without cameras rolling, without any promotional agenda, the basketball world stopped to listen. What he said was not about stats or shot selection, it was about presence, it was about control, it was about two women who are redefining brilliance in today's game, and the way Jordan described them, especially Sophie Cunningham, caught everyone off guard. He called her a storm in sneakers. Stay with me, because what Jordan said next, and what other legends are now saying, signals something much bigger than praise. It signals a power shift. If you're enjoying the video so far, take a second to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. Michael Jordan did not simply approach the microphone. He was in control of the situation. What started off as a straightforward homage swiftly evolved into one of the most memorable statements in modern basketball history. Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark were astounded, not simply honored. Jordan described their influence in a clear, concise voice that nobody could have predicted. This had nothing to do with former glories. It was about who is now carrying the game and its future. What precisely did he say then? The name Caitlin Clark is already well known. Long-standing WNBA records have been broken by her debut season. The number of attendees has increased. Ratings on television are skyrocketing. Jordan, however, ignored all of that. He saw past the obvious and described her style as something you simply observe rather than coach. He said he was not particularly impressed by her shot choice or stat line. It was her being there. She is in control of the situation. He said some players need time to warm up to the spotlight. She was already on fire when she entered. For a long time, Clark's game has been compared to the top players in the industry, both male and female. She is a fan favorite because of her incredible court vision and boundless range. However, Jordan's remarks provided it with a different type of validation, a recognition rather than a comparison. She was not the future of women's basketball. In his opinion, she was the ultimate basketball present. That distinction matters enormously. Calling someone the future implies they are not yet fully arrived. Calling them the present is an acknowledgement that the moment has already happened, that the shift has already occurred, that the league is now operating in the Caitlin Clark era, whether everyone has accepted it or not. Jordan, a man who built his entire legacy on recognizing the exact moment when the game changed, was saying that this is that moment, and he was not done. Then, almost without warning, he shifted the topic to Sophie Cunningham. Jordan was clear, even if Sophie might not get the same amount of media attention, her influence is equally important. He referred to her as a storm in sneakers, a player who transforms the game each time she takes the court rather than chasing attention. He emphasized her tenacity, her unwillingness to give up, and her capacity to immerse herself in roles that most people would be reluctant to attempt. He said she plays like it is personal, and that is what sets players apart from rivals in this game. It meant more than just recognition from someone like Jordan, whose legacy was built on converting rivalry into obsession. Sophie was not receiving accolades for her notoriety or popularity. The fire that burns beneath every screen, rebound, and defensive stop was being recognized. This was not a publicity gimmick. It had nothing to do with promoting a campaign or establishing a brand. From a legend who has witnessed the game from every perspective, it was an authentic moment. He saw more than simply skill in Clark and Cunningham. It was an indication that basketball's future is far off. It is here already. Jordan sliced through years of discourse on women's visibility in sports with a few well-chosen statements. He accomplished what full-page endorsements frequently fail to do without a single camera rolling. People could sense the change because of him, and the entire court pays attention when a voice like his speaks, no matter how gently. The question now is whether Jordan's unanticipated act was merely encouragement or the beginning of something much more significant. The answer, based on what happened next, is that it was only the opening note. When brilliance sees its reflection, the legends weigh in. Larry Bird, a man who seldom gives public praise, especially when it is uncalled for, gave one of the most surprising yet insightful answers. Bird, who is renowned for his quiet manner and keen sense of genuine talent, did not simply bring up Clark. He spoke of her in the same breath as the basketball that molded his early years. Bird almost casually admitted that he watched more Iowa Hawkeyes games than he had intended during the 2023 to 2024 season, drawing comparisons between Caitlin Clark's play and his own time at Indiana State. That was not simply sentimentality. It was reverence for a man whose legacy was founded on accuracy, perseverance, and unparalleled basketball intelligence. Bird conveyed a clear message with a modest yet effective nod. It was not just women's collegiate basketball that Clark was dominating. She was redefining the entire sport. The comparison to Bird is significant for reasons that go beyond basketball skill. Larry Bird was never the fastest player on the court. He was never the most athletic. What made him great was his understanding of the game, his anticipation, his ability to see plays develop before anyone else. When he compares Clark to himself, he is not just praising her shooting, he is praising her mind. He is saying that she sees the game the way he saw it. And for a player who built his legend on being smarter than everyone else, that is the highest compliment he can give. Bird does not hand out comparisons to his own game lightly. He has spent decades deflecting praise, downplaying his own genius, refusing to engage in debates about who is the greatest. And yet, when asked about Caitlin Clark, he made the comparison directly. That tells you everything about how highly he regards her. However, Bird was not by himself. The increasing chorus was joined by the voice of another tall figure, both literally and figuratively. Long admired for his devotion to LSU and Angel Reese, Shaquille O'Neal provided an unexpected change of viewpoint. Shaq, who was initially perceived as supporting Clark's most formidable opponent, shocked viewers during a broadcast by pausing to admit what many had previously guessed. He had fallen in love with Caitlin Clark. He was not offering his opinions as a critic or commentator. As a fan, he was speaking. He said, "I'm not Shaq right now. I'm a fan," end quote. The tone for what came next was established by that straightforward statement. He acknowledged that he did not think Clark's TV persona could match her on-court achievements, but there was no space for dispute after what he witnessed himself. Her leadership, her vision, and her judgment. She was not merely displaying figures. Every time she was making the right plays. Hearing that from one of the most powerful players in NBA history, a player who switched the center position and used intimidation to win 4 titles, was revelation as well as confirmation. Shaq knows what dominance looks like. He built his career on it. And he is saying that Clark has it. Not the physical dominance that defined his own game, but the mental dominance that separates great players from merely good ones. The ability to read the game, to make the right play every single time, to control the flow of an entire contest without needing to dominate the ball. That is what Shaq is recognizing, and coming from him, it carries enormous weight. Then there is Steph Curry, another master of redefining basketball. Curry intervened and praised Caitlin's control of the court rather than the viral shots. He answered, "That's what makes her different." This comes from the player who changed the way the world perceives range. That was a powerful statement. So much weight, in fact, that fans are now speculating about the 2 shooters facing off in the future. Even if Clark has stayed coy, the prospect is still there like static. Curry, more than anyone, understands what it means to be a shooter who changes the geometry of the game. He knows what it is like to be targeted, to be underestimated, to be told that his style would not work at the highest level. And he sees in Clark the same qualities that made him a revolution rather than just a player. His praise is not casual. It is recognition from one pioneer to another. Tyrese Halliburton notices it too. The guard for the Indiana Pacers, who is well-versed in carrying a city's dreams, refers to Caitlin as a peer rather than a fan. He expressed admiration, saying, "Just 2 point guards trying to lead. It was not a pointless gesture." He acknowledges the burden she bears in Indiana, attends her games, and openly supports her. Her arrival has created a buzz in a franchise that is still in the process of rebuilding. He respects more than simply her abilities. He is aware of the pressure she is experiencing across generations. That is what leadership looks like. For Caitlin Clark, one of those defining moments came not on the court, but in the form of a list. A list she was not on. When the 2024 U.S. Olympic squad was named and her name was missing, the silence that followed spoke more than any news statement could. This was the player who had electrified college arenas, spiked viewing records, and propelled women's basketball into the mainstream debate, left off the largest stage in world sports. The disappointment rang loudly among fans, but Caitlin did not add to the uproar. She did not speak. She worked. That omission, intentional or not, handed Clark something rare: space. Free from the noise of Olympic coverage and global schedules, she returned to what she knew best: refining, training, reloading. There were no TV teams following her into the gym, no urgent reports about her next move, just sweat, just film study, just the sharp, silent rhythm of someone turning uncertainty into fuel. Observing from a distance, Dwight Howard described it as a challenge, and he did not expect her to fold. He anticipated that she would change. Howard, a player who has seen the NBA's inner workings from the inside, understood what the snub meant. It was not just a roster decision, it was a message, and Clark received that message loud and clear. But instead of responding with anger, she responded with preparation. That is the mark of a player who understands that the only response that matters is the one delivered on the court. The Olympic Committee made their choice, Clark made hers, and the results have been undeniable. In the meantime, criticism was circulating across the basketball community. Jeff Teague, a former NBA guard, did not hold back. To him, the WNBA wasted a major opportunity, not just in leaving Clark off the Olympic squad, but in failing to properly embrace the influence she was already having. He said they played this all wrong: the boost in attendance, the proliferation of merchandise, and the increase in ticket sales. Clark was more than just a gifted rookie. She was a movement's focal point. However, the treatment she got on the floor felt less like a welcome mat and more like a warning shot. Teague's criticism was pointed because it cut to the heart of the contradiction. The league was benefiting financially from Clark's presence while simultaneously allowing her to be targeted on the court. That contradiction is still unresolved. The behavior was intolerable to Hall of Famer Rick Barry, who had witnessed decades of hard fouls and physical altercations. He remarked, "It's personal," regarding the manner defenders were singling out Clark. Those statements held weight from a legend who once flourished in the most difficult period of basketball history. Barry knows the difference between physical defense and targeted abuse. He built his career in an era when hard fouls were expected, and even he could see that what was happening to Clark went beyond normal competitive physicality. It was personal, it was deliberate, and it was being allowed to continue without meaningful intervention. Clark, however, did not voice any complaints. She took in every bump, cheap shot, and cold shoulder, responding with execution rather than interviews. There was a quiet revolt going on, and the legends were watching. Sophie Cunningham, however, was the storm itself, whilst Caitlin was the calm in the midst. Sophie did not sidestep the problem as Indiana struggled with early season inconsistency. After a frustrating defeat in June 2025, she called it out. With her eyes ablaze and her voice steady, she stood at the platform. "Why don't we act consistently?" It was not a query. It was a challenge and a demand on herself, her coaches, and her teammates. There were no hollow promises associated with that type of fire. Sophie stepped up when Clark missed a preseason game, making the free throws that forced overtime and contributed to the victory. Sophie did not hold back when the Fever lost badly at home, shooting just 30% from the field. "We owe the supporters." She did not prepare her message. It was genuine. She was heard by the crew. Then she made her breakthrough versus Atlanta. She responded to her first double-double of the season, 16 points and 10 rebounds, with a cunning smile and the words, "It's about dang time." Her sense of comedy was tinged with accountability. She did not play for statistics. She was playing for unity, accountability, and all of the supporters who remained seated at difficult moments. Flash has never been a part of her journey from Missouri to Phoenix and now Indiana. Force has been a factor. Although she does not score 30 points every night, she has the ability to rally a locker room, take a charge, and make a clutch three. Her energy is infectious and her defense is oppressive. Additionally, Sophie rushed across the court to defend Clark after she committed a hard foul during a heated game in June. Without hesitation or apology, drama was not the point of that moment. The message was at issue. Cunningham was protecting more than just a teammate. In Indiana, she was fighting for a new society based on solidarity and bravery. Her impact pulses through every possession in any Fever game. Even though the stat sheet might not fully convey her worth, without needing her name in lights, she is the one diving for loose balls, yelling out rotations, and changing momentum. That is the kind of player who wins championships. Not always the one scoring the most points, but the one who does the things that do not show up in the box score. The one who sets the tone, the one who refuses to back down, the one who makes everyone around her better simply by being on the floor. Sophie became more vocal when the changing room fell silent. She brought spark as the energy level dropped. Sophie was the one who stood closest to Clark when she was receiving criticism from both opponents and skeptics, safeguarding the team's momentum. If the world's perception of them was altered by that event, may Sophie Cunningham's subsequent experiences alter the power dynamics in women's basketball? The answer is already unfolding. Cunningham has become the Fever's emotional compass, the player who says what needs to be said when no one else will. She has called out inconsistency. She has demanded accountability. She has protected her teammate with physical force when necessary, and she has done it all without seeking the spotlight for herself. That is leadership in its purest form, not the kind that seeks recognition, but the kind that earns it through action. What makes Cunningham's role so vital is that she understands the league in a way that Clark, for all her brilliance, cannot yet fully grasp. Sophie has experienced the grind, the financial constraints, the inconsistent exposure, the reliance on overseas contracts during the off-season to make a living. Her career covers times when viewing was a secondary concern and marketing budgets were meager. She knows the real price of surviving in this league. Clark has arrived at the top almost instantly. Sophie fought for every inch. That difference in experience is not a weakness, it is a strength. It gives Cunningham a perspective that Clark needs as she navigates the treacherous waters of superstardom. And it gives Clark something she cannot get anywhere else, a teammate who understands both the glory and the grind. When combined, Clark and Cunningham constitute a first for the WNBA. Growing influence meets a hardened viewpoint. Their developing collaboration has drawn attention from sports insiders as it may pave the way for more than just on-court victories. Their relationship suggests a concerted effort to bring about change, increased pay, safer working conditions, and ongoing career assistance. These dreams are not abstract. Cunningham has experienced these problems, and Clark now has the authority to address them. The league's business model has already been turned upside down by Clark's marketability, not just at home games, but throughout the league. Her presence increases ticket sales, her social media following surpasses that of prominent male athletes, and she has generated extraordinary retail sales and sponsorships. Because of this, she has influence in the media, politics, and brand equity in addition to the hardwood. But the issue still stands. Would she use it to support the league's overall advancement as well as her own platform? Veterans like Cunningham will be crucial if she succeeds. Although the younger generation may attract attention, the seasoned pros who have endured years of hardship are the ones who know what true reform looks like. Cunningham has long been a supporter of long-term change and has already been a powerful voice inside the Players Association. Together, these two represent more than just individual achievement. They might mark the beginning of a new era in which players, not simply the league, will determine the course of events. That is the real power shift happening in Indiana. It is not just about winning games. It is about changing the structure of the sport itself, and it is being led by two women who could not be more different in style but who share the same unshakable will. The presence of Caitlin Clark has turned into a spark. She is testing a system that was never meant to elevate someone like her this quickly. With every dribble and dagger three, not just because she is scoring at will, stretching defenses, and drawing viewership numbers that corporate sponsors cannot ignore, she did not move up the WNBA acceptance slow-building ladder. Michael Jordan was aware that she had detonated it. That is why it was not a rehashed compliment when he said she possessed that fire, the sort that frightens people. It served as a caution. He was not discussing failed tasks or terrified defenders. He was referring to the uneasiness of seeing the spotlight move, the silent dread concealed behind tight grins. Jordan was impressed by more than just her talent. He knew that she was presently in the middle of a storm. He saw Caitlin doing the same for a league that had long battled to find its mainstream moment, just as his own emergence had once changed the NBA's DNA. However, there is a price for that unmistakable brilliant fire. Not every person standing next to Caitlin wants to get sucked into her flames. Perhaps insecurity, perhaps jealousy, but this is for sure, it has not been a nice greeting. She has been the subject of needless hits disguised as aggressive defense. Players have questioned her resume and shrugged off her achievements. It is just a part of the game, according to some. Others are more knowledgeable. It is Sophie Cunningham. The grind, being ignored, and taking elbows without the camera seeing are nothing new to her. However, she also has a deeper understanding of how harmful unbridled envy can be. For years, Sophie has witnessed this league crumble under duress, fighting for respect and resources. She is one of the only people who seem to understand it now that she is in Caitlin's orbit. This moment has the power to either shatter everything or create something more powerful. Sophie is unique in that she does not recoil. She has been present. The weight has been felt by her. She may not make the news as much as Caitlin, but she is able to see behind the commotion when others perceive the attention as a threat. Sophie sees an opportunity to change everything from pay scales to primetime access when Clark draws. The friction is genuine, though. The league is becoming hotter even as TV ratings soar and courtside seats become in high demand. Magic Johnson recently made headlines when he likened Caitlin's arrival to his own debut with Larry Bird. A moment of redemption, a turning point. It was not overstated. Some men's games now receive more viewers than they did in the past. The WNBA has never received sponsorship money before, but now it is pouring in. A whole new degree of visibility, national endorsements, and private aircraft. But Caitlin is at the center of it all. And that is where the complexity arises. Cheryl Swoop's criticism, Diana Taurasi's cautions, and Cheryl Reeves' detached coolness all point to an underlying unease. For some, Clark is a symbol of opportunity. She represents imbalance to others. Nevertheless, Clark continues to appear unflappable, tenacious, and astute. Her performance speaks louder than any doubt. She makes wise choices, uplifts her teammates, and delivers when it counts. While playing with a calmness that endures under pressure, legends like Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jordan do not provide cheap support. They perceive things differently. Once devoted to Angel Reese, Shaq openly acknowledged it every time she makes the right play. However, Sophie Cunningham's voice is the one that stands firm next to Clark on the court. Sophie is not a subtle person. She talks unfiltered and plays with fire. She is aware of what it means to be unfairly evaluated. Caitlin also witnesses the same fire being misinterpreted. Sophie refers to it as focus, but some call Clark entitled. She sees accuracy where others perceive cockiness. Even when it puts her at odds with her peers, she has not been afraid to question the narrative. There is more to their relationship than just partnership. It is about collective disobedience. Sophie is aware of the pressure Clark bears, not only as a rookie, but also as the spokesperson for a league that has unexpectedly gained attention. After witnessing the criticism and the unfair treatment, she has made the decision to speak up. They are more than just rivals or teammates when they work together. They act as catalysts. Even though not everyone agrees with Clark, she is advancing the game. Additionally, Sophie is ensuring that performance, advancement, and a future that differs greatly from the past are not overshadowed by the cacophony. The defining question of this era is whether the league can handle what it has created. Clark has brought unprecedented attention, money, and opportunity. But she has also brought unprecedented tension. The old guard sees her as a threat. The new fans see her as a savior. And somewhere in the middle, Sophie Cunningham stands as the bridge, the player who understands both worlds and refuses to let either one destroy what they are building. The future of the WNBA is being written right now in Indiana, and it is being written by two women who refuse to back down. Whether the league embraces them or resists them, the power has already shifted. The only question left is what they will do with it. Michael Jordan does not talk about women's basketball until he did. And when he spoke, he named two players, Clark and Sophie Cunningham, not as future stars, not as promising rookies, as the present, as the movement, as the proof that basketball's future is already here. Larry Bird saw it, Shaq admitted it, Steph Curry confirmed it, and Sophie Cunningham has been living it, fighting for every inch, protecting her teammate, and demanding more from a league that has spent decades asking for patience. This is not just about two players. It is about a power shift that will define the next era of women's basketball. Clark is the spark. Cunningham is the steel. Together, they are changing everything. So here is the question. Are Sophie Cunningham and Clark advancing the league, or are their bold actions widening the gaps? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know if you are part of the movement. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Click the video on the screen, and I will see you in the next one.